So in Unit 6, we invited you to use AI to define your brand voice and create your brand story. And gosh, there happens to be an AI PRM prompt, the 7-question brand story. That's a fantastic place to start. We have a full demo of how that can be used. The other great way to do this is Jasper, which is one of the great AI for text tools, has started to build brand story and brand voice prompts into their default settings. I know this is an area, a particular passion of yours, Nicole, so I'll start with you. How have you used it? By the way, when we talk about brand voice, what we're really saying is, how do you make sure that the language you use in your social media, your website, your email sounds like you, like your company? That's what we mean by brand voice.
Yeah, your company and yourself as an individual, because the individuals in a company are also very important. And you want to capture that voice. And you can take anything that you've written and throw it into ChatGPT and ask it to define the voice, and it'll give you all the characteristics, and then you can use that for future reference. You can also ask it to so I've done that where I put it in there, define the voice, and then ask what celebrities have that voice. And then that gives me a good base of where to start during, with some writing exercises. And you've seen the brand story prompt. We use it religiously. We have a VA that started with us recently in the Philippines. And so we've created SOPs, the standard operating procedures for her. And it's been really helpful for us to use Jasper, because she doesn't have access to the same GPT features and functions that we do in the Philippines. And we found this in Mexico too. And if we add her to Jasper, she has our full access. And so Jasper has the chat feature. So it enhances your prompts for you too. It's got an enhanced prompt feature. It'll add your voice. You can use GPT-4 in there. And so if you're working with teams, Jasper is really helpful for that, because now she has access to everything we've ever written, and she can continue to write in the same voice, and it's preset in there. So it's really been helpful for teams to use Jasper, and ChatGPT is usually where people start.
Perfect. Yeah, Jeff, how do you get ChatGPT to sound like you when you're writing emails with it?
This is going to be a strange comment, but I think this is similar to the other guest panelists that we brought up. What I learned is I don't know my brand voice or my personal voice. And so throughout this entire process, the attempt to make AI do things well for me has actually been a very interesting discovery of what I needed to figure out from a branding and marketing perspective. So, when I look at some of my, emails, and it turns out I have sort of somewhat a very quick and brief tone that tends to be factually oriented, but I also use a lot of feeling words. And I've learned that by trying to feed my email content into ChatGPT and figure out how to create my voice. So at a tactical level, what I've tended to done is take a lot of the content we've already made, either as a company, like blogs on the website, or marketing material, or even my email copy, and put it into the system in order to get some feedback on what my voice is. And I think the biggest learning for me is that I have not been deliberate in those efforts. And by trying to use these AI tools, I think what you find as a business often is it shines a big light on where you don't have defined workflow, or you don't have core information about your business defined enough to enable a machine. And the act of doing that might have been more valuable, or even as valuable as having the machine be able to write in my voice, is actually have to think about what that was.
Love it. Yeah, I've been taking transcripts of my speaking, because one of the biggest lessons I learned from working at NPR is that your voice, writing voice, is just how you speak. And the closer you can get to that kind of conversational self and the language you use, the more voicey it is. And so you just take a transcript of your spoken voice and then ask it, what is the brand voice of this piece of text? And then you can use its response in all of your future text. And I remember for years and years, almost a decade, I was a journalist, and always was asked, how do you write in a more voicey way, or what's your writing voice? And it was only until I got into radio where I realized that my voice is literally my voice and how I speak. And then there's going to be a slight distinction between your brand voice and your personal voice. Your personal voice will probably be a little more informal. It might be a little bit more profane. My wife, who was the CEO of a nonprofit, was famous for cursing in meetings. It was just part of who she was. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do that with corporate communications. So as you get a little further along, when you start, your voice is your company's voice in a professional tone. And then over time, your brand voice might distance itself from your personal voice. And that's entirely appropriate and part of the maturing of any company. And then once you have a descriptor of your brand voice, you can then use that descriptor in your prompts, and it'll write in your style. Another great little sort of pro tip is the act as pro tip. So act as, Tony Robbins and write this email if you want to have kind of a Tony Robbins, or act as Gary Vaynerchuk, or act as Oprah, or act as Michelle Obama, and then it'll write in that voice.
Yeah, and I do Michelle Obama and Neil Patel. That's my combination. And it says I also sound like Gary Vee, but I don't think quite so much. I don't know.
So you probably say, here, take this piece of text. Who does this text sound most like? And it might give you some celebrity names, and then you can write in that person's voice.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone has a brand voice of Donald Trump. That would be pretty cool.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
All right.